was to go in and look at this job. This is a job that, I created on the job master itself. You're going to have several tabs of data across the top. The general tab is general information about the job, customer, then, also like the location, the contact information. Then on the options tab, you use this to define how it will interact with the other portions of the software, the other modules. And by that, what I mean is, like, if you notice over here, I have, AR, this is progress billing taxing. If you're doing taxes on your AR billings, you can do POAP taxes. You can have equipment rates if you're charging out your equipment to the job, and you can define like expense tables that you want to use for the GL portion when you're posting to the different cost classes within the job. And then
all
I know
those functions you can lock down, so once you set them, they don't get changed accidentally and screw something up, or how do you do that?
Yeah, you have a way that you can, any of these screens that I'm showing you on the master files, you have the ability to customize these. And you can hide fields, disable fields, enable them for different people. So maybe only 2 or 3 people can even go in and set up all of this information. Then everybody else is sort of displaying the information that's there. So you can use security, in that aspect to lock it down if you need to. But all of these can be customized.
Can you lock down just certain fields? So say we want somebody to be able to change maybe the contact or the telephone name, but not the contract number or the customer or something? Sure.
Yeah, so to do it, just to show you how easy it is, because I know this was a concern on how easy things were, you just go to personalize. On the panel you're trying to customize, and you can do it for a specific user, you can do it for a profile of users or a role based, my project managers for example, and then all users. But then when you go in, you can lock the fields down on the screen. This one I've only enabled the top section, so it's this section, but each one of these panels you can customize too. So it's very easy to personalize the panels. We even launched the application to lock it down. So yes, by role or by individual users.
Okay.
Okay. On the payroll, this will be used, if you continue with the exact time, the import file information. This could be used to, do some different functionalities within our system. The Builder 1 and 2 tabs would not be turned on for you. That's just because I have a Home Builder module turned on, and that's what enables those. And then we have the Additional tab, and you'll see this throughout the system on some of the entry screens, but you'll also see it on all the master files. We allow you to create user-defined fields. We understand that we provide certain fields for data input. If you need to create more than that, you can use the user-defined fields, and it's unlimited. You can create as many as you want to, and you're welcome to add them to any of these panels. We just understand we've used a lot of the real estate already on these panels. So what we give you as the Additional tab is sort of a run over. So you'll see it. Now, these user-defined fields, I also should point out that if you create user-defined fields, you can use them in the business analytics too. They can be used for reporting purposes. So they're not just data you put on these screens and you have to come in there to see them. You can see them in the analytics.
Does it have the English word as well? Because I know in our current system, we can do that too, but then it's called, user 5 and user 7. And so it's not.
No, you call it whatever you want to.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And the reason your system is currently like that is probably because they've limited how many fields you can create.
Yeah.
Well, because we're unlimited, we let you name it what you want to, and you can create as many as you want to.
Cool.
Just so you know, we used to have that functionality like that. We could allow you to do 20 user-defined fields, but our customers needed more, so we just opened it up and said, we'll just create a new table. Here you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Once you set up the job, there's several ways to get the cost code information or the budget information into the software. You can utilize estimating software. We have an estimating module that's part of our system that you can set up. It's like most estimating systems where you can set up a resource book. You'll set up all these calculations and different types of materials and different laborers and equipment, and you can use that to build your takeoff for your bidding. You also can use any of the other, estimating softwares that are out there, or not any of them, but most of them we already have a relationship with. And if I open up this import cost code, you can see that we have like HCSS, Hard Dollar, Bid to Win. These are all estimating softwares people have heard of. You can use those. You can also use Excel. And if I remember correctly, you use Excel today.
Yeah.
Correct? So you can continue to use Excel. We're not going to make you leave it. It actually is the #1 estimating package in the construction industry. Even though the others say they are, really Excel is. I would still say 80% of our customers still use Excel because they've built these great, huge workbooks that have all this information in them, and they're used to doing it. Estimators like them. They've built their own custom sort of tailored estimating software, and we don't want you to leave that. If that's something you want to stay with, you can. You can take those files and you can save them in an ASCII format. What we would do is we would provide you with our file layout that we need for our job cost code structure, and you can then import it into the system. We have a lot of customers that do that, and they just create like a macros to say that this field in my workbook converts to this field within the Eclipse or Explorer import. Okay?
Yeah.
And you can use this ASCII file. Do I have a question?
No, looks good.
No. Okay. We also have the ability, instead of importing the data from the estimates, we also have the ability to copy from an existing job. So if you have a standard cost code structure that you use on 90% of your jobs, you could continue to do that. You create like a template job out there that has all the cost codes on it, and you could use this copy cost code function. All you would do is enter the template job that you've created, and then you would enter the job number that you want to copy it to. And then you get to pick and choose what you're copying from that template job, whether it's just the cost codes, or is it the contract items or the schedule of values, or do they have a work breakdown structure that you want to pull in? So it has some flexibility in there. Then what you'll do is you'll go into that job and those cost codes and enter the takeoff information for that particular job. So it's sort of a quick copy paste. Okay. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is populate the data within the cost code master. So if I was to, let me look at your job, the one I created for you, this demo. So if I look at this job and I was to prompt on this magnifying glass, these are the cost codes that I created, and Michelle shared some structures with me that you currently use. Now, I admit I didn't enter them all, but I entered a good portion of them. But if you wanted to select one of these, rough carpentry, you would then open up, and this is the information. You can manually enter it if you want to. You don't have to use the import. You don't have to use the copy function. Those are just to help you get this information in the system. You're welcome to come out here and just create them manually. That's what I did for your job, is I created them manually. Probably took me 15 minutes, if that, but I'm very familiar with the software. But you would enter your description, what the unit of measure is, then you would go into your cost to designate what of that is for the different cost classes. So you can see here like labor dollars, equipment, materials. These classes that you're seeing here, these are things that you get to define in your system, though we do reserve the right to the top 4 that you're seeing on here and the revenue one. Everything underneath hard equipment in my system are things that I've created on my server. So you get to customize these based on what structure you use today. Okay. But you could just go enter this. If you wanted to create your schedule of values, if this was a schedule of values job, you would just go to this estimate revenue, and then you would create your schedule of values. Now, when it comes to creating the schedule of values, you can use, it's very flexible, so when you're creating those progress billings, you can create them based on what the customer needs, the format, whatever the customer has dictated for the format. And what I mean by that is you could take multiple cost codes, so your job cost budget, cost
Kira
codes.
is here, by the way. So, you know.
Oh, hi, Kira.
Hi. How's it going?
So you could take multiple cost codes and roll them into one contract item, and vice versa. You could take one cost code and roll it into many contract items. So, and here, this is what you're defining as the contract items. Okay? So that's how you really set up the job and the cost codes and the contract items for your schedule of values. What you're ultimately trying to get to is the breakdown for the job. So I'm using that contract status inquiry. This is that inquiry I kept going in and out of in the presentation when we were on site. If I was to look at one of these jobs like Walton Foundations and I was to open it up, this is the cost code structure I have for this job. And you're going to see that it has my original budgets, my change orders, my current budget. I could also have pending change orders and proposed budget on here if I wanted to. Those are just fields I have to add. But it's showing you the breakdown by cost code. I can also look at a job and break it down by cost class. So if I want to look at, instead of looking at the cost codes and then drilling down to see the breakdown for that particular cost code for labor, material, equipment, subcontract, I can also look overall the whole entire job for the labor, equipment, material, subcontract, etc. And that's what this view is showing you. So, but when you're importing it, you're copying or you're creating them manually, the cost codes, what you're creating is this original cost code budget. Hopefully that explained it.
What's the,
Okay.
well, like, I'm kind of, can you go back to that previous screen?
Sure. I'll go into your job, even though I haven't, I don't think I have any cost to it, but at least it's a structure you're familiar with. Okay, so this is the job that I created based on some of your job structure.
Can you click on one of the cost code like hyperlinks just so I can see what it looks like?
Sure, so go into earthwork, I guess. I don't know,
Yeah,
I'm just picking one. So this would be the breakdown by the different what we call cost class. You might call it cost type. So labor, equipment, materials,
We call it
etc.
account categories.
Account category, yeah, is what ours is, but we get it though. Okay.
Okay.
And she said that you have the top 4: pay quality, labor hours, labor dollars, and owned equipment, and revenue. Oh, and hired equipment.
Hired equipment.
And revenue
so-
are fixed. All the other ones you get to pick. You get to make your own. Like you don't.
Yeah.
You can make up them
Oh.
per job
So no, it's it's for the whole entire
Okay. System.
database.
But then
Yeah,
you
this-
pick
this
which
is-
ones you want for your job.
Right.
I mean, we'll probably pick the same ones we have now. I would think, unless there's some that are missing.
I don't.
So I think we've created, since we've started SL, we've created like 2 or 3, but,
Two more than what we had.
or no,
Well,
we added cost codes into some.
'Cause we don't really distinguish between owned equipment and hired equipment.
We do.
Right.
We do.
Well,
Well,
hired
it's-
equipment in our system is a little different.
Well, if we do because it's an allocation and yeah,
So
we
it's
do
different
have.
rate.
Well, we just do have 2 sub accounts actually. Like one's called like, I think it, anyway, one's called like indirect equipment costs and one's called
Oh.
something. There are 2. I don't know how much we use them separately, but
Yeah.
I just use one. But sometimes I see that Cindy allocates to anyway.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
And just so you know, owned equipment is coming from the equipment module. So in the equipment module, you can distinguish what is truly owned equipment. So your true assets, and then you can also have rental or leased equipment, rental equipment, and leased equipment. That are also included in the equipment control. Hired equipment is, we have another module called hired trucker. It's used for, it's a third-party hauler, if you think of it like that, for heavy highway. So they're haulers, they're, true haulers.
Okay. Do we
Okay.
hire much equipment?
We rent
Yeah.
equipment.
You
Yeah.
rent it.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
use, you can control the rented in that owned equipment, and you can, there's different ways you can distinguish what of that is, like you were doing with direct. This is a
Yeah.
direct cost, this is an indirect, and, your owned equipment is a direct cost, I'm assuming, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was an assumption on my part, I guess I shouldn't,
Yeah.
and then, okay.
Actually, that's a good question too. We have our some of our project managers and maintenance guys and stuff. They have their own trucks. Do you guys do equipment time cards based on the employee's time card? Like, can it be copied for the equipment?
It can, so there's some tools you can use, like you're saying that if the employee's on the job site, you can what we call associate a piece of equipment with that employee. So if the employee's on the job site for 4 hours, it will also charge 4 hours for his piece of equipment.
Great.
Is that what we're talking
Yep.
about?
And then 4 hours
Okay.
at another job site.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. And you can set up, even though it's his owned equipment, it would record, in that situation, you're probably, and I assume you give him a truck allowance.
Oh, well, they get a gas card, and then we pay. It's our truck, so we do the maintenance on it and everything. They just drive
Okay.
it to the job.
Oh, okay. I was thinking it was their personal vehicles that you were reimbursing them
Oh
for.
no, this is our.
No.
It's our own vehicles.
Okay, yeah, but that's easy to set up. And that's what we call an associated piece of equipment. So when you're keying it, or when it comes into payroll, it just says, oh, if I'm keying this for John Smith, 4 hours, also create the equipment entry at the same time for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Did we? So I missed the first 15 minutes.
I told her just to go into budgets because you'd already seen them.
So she
Well,
showed us kind of the
yeah.
setup, how you would set up a budget.
Which I hadn't seen.
Yeah, maybe we could just, show it again. She saw how you update a budget,
Okay.
but we'll probably want to see it again.
Okay,
But,
you want me to go back through that, or do you want to
Just-
show her?
I mean, I could just tell her later, or she's got a recording. We got a recording.
Yeah, I
And she
guess,
has a
yeah.
recording.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, that's fine.
She can watch the first 15 minutes after.
Did we have? Or are we just throwing out what we want to see, or did we?
Well, I told her at the beginning that we wanted to see budgets, change orders, submittals,
Yeah.
all the things, billing, all the things that you do in Spitfire.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the submittal process would be definitely a good one. Doing an owner or a pay application, those are definitely priorities for me because they're really, well, the billing's not so bad right now, but the submittal process in our current system is very clunky and not clear. And
So the two things she said, owner, pay requests, or not pay requests.
Pay
but
applications.
Pay applications to the owner and
Okay.
submittal process.
Which would you like me to show you first?
Pay
How's that?
applications.
Okay, that one is easy to do. So we have, I gotta find it. So it took me a second. So we have progress billings. So if I was to enter a job, it's pulling in because I've already started a billing on this particular job. So it's pulled in whatever I was working on because I haven't sent it to AR yet.
Right.
That's why it's populating for me. Makes things simple. It lets me know I have something in progress today. And so you can set up workflows like I was showing you previously with AIR or AP invoices. You can set up different workflows that would be utilized for your AR billings. So you can send it through approval processes. You can even take this and let the guys enter the percentages, send it into a workflow so then it would come into you, Kira, and you get to review it, make sure that that's okay. You could send a copy to the customer. they don't know that you haven't sent it to AR yet. But you know, I typically when I was doing this, I would give them a copy. They would mark all over it. No, I'm not paying you that. We used to call it a red line or a pencil copy.
Right.
We would give them and let them mark all over it, tell us what they were going to pay us or they were willing to pay us, and then I would go into the system and I would have to reverse that out and re-enter it. Well, in our system, you could give them a copy, then you just come back into this screen like I'm looking right now, and you modify it based on that red line or that pencil copy that they provided you.
Okay.
Can you attach
So-
an image of that pencil copy in here?
Absolutely. So if you wanted to, as a matter of fact, all you would do, this is using a combination of Doc Pro, which is our document management tool, and Business Analytics, which is that ability to customize the input screens. So if I wanted to attach something, you know, I have to go out here and find something. I think I have, I have some subcontract. I'll take a subcontract billing. How's that? I know this doesn't apply, but payment form. But if this is something I wanted to attach to it, I can just drag it up here and drop it, and it would attach it and in the system. So now it would show the original copy and then their red line copy that they sent back to me. So I could then pull it up. I could move it into another monitor if I had dual monitors, and then I could key the information into the applicable contract items. Excuse me for a second.
A lot of people are getting sick.
Sorry, I had to sneeze.
Quite all right.
Okay.
I did not want to sneeze in your ears now. Now I'm seeing stars. But to enter the details of what you're seeing over here on the left-hand side, you can see I have contract items. So on this particular job, I did that first scenario I was talking about. I'm taking 3 cost codes and I'm rolling them into one contract item. So I'm doing that process. So, but what it does is it allows you to click on these fields and then you can enter the current amount, percentage, or quantity that you want to bill.
Mm-hmm.
So on that one, I've already billed 100%, but if I came down to this one and I said, you know what, you'll notice when I change this, it changes the information up here at the top. But if I say it's 100%, I tab through it, hit enter, it then changes the values in the other buckets because my retainage amount has changed, my quantity changed, and my percent and my current amount. It also changed the values here. So you just click through, sorry, and you just start entering the data based on whatever line you're trying to bill.
Right.
Now, you know, if you wanted to, you could submit this into workflow. If I wanted to, I could print it out in like an AIA format. Is that what you use today?
Yeah,
Or do
mostly.
they
We have some owners that have their own templates. Can you upload
So-
a different template in?
You can. So you see where it says print form? This E101 is the equivalent of the G702.
Yeah.
I haven't uploaded the E101/102, which is gives you both the G702 and G703. But you can take that, customize it, move things around, put it in the format that the customer wants, and you just sort of drag it up into this file, and then you can flip back and forth between the different forms that you want to use.
Okay.
How do you write off something you don't want to bill? Would you do it in this one?
Not in a percent
Not
complete
for
job.
some- Okay.
In a
Maybe we need to see
in a
what
cost plus job.
cost plus or.
You mean
Mark.
you're wanting to you build them something and you want to write it off, or
Like-
you're just saying that it's a
like in
zero
a-
line item?
A cost plus, yeah, like a 0 line item. Like normally, well, in our system, it allocates cost to be billed, and then sometimes you might write it off like you don't want to bill it ever.
It's a no charge item.
Yeah, a no charge item.
Well, we have different billing types, cost plus,
Time and material.
time and material, and percent complete.
Okay.
And we have, and as far as maintenance, we have certain types there, like flat rate maintenance.
Yeah, and then do you have other maintenance that could be a combination of flat rate plus cost?
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry,
most of them are flat rate plus then, we have an over flat rate or above flat rate work, and then sometimes we'll have it split in half. Like landscape will be time and material, and then maintenance will be flat rate or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so the flat rates you would have to set up as recurring billings in our system.
And you
Yeah,
can,
that's great.
yeah,
Yeah,
but and
that's
it, yeah,
fine.
for the
That's what we want.
job,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you can have those recurring billings set at any frequency you want to. It could be weekly, monthly, semi, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, however you've negotiated that contract. It's just a recurring, you just go out and run it when it's time to run it, and it would run it for you. The progress billings is what I'm showing you right now. So this would be those the contract jobs, your cost plus. You could use, it depends how you're wanting to do the cost plus, because you could use this contract progress billing and then enter values in here that would print on the billing, or you can set it up that you're using our T&M, or you could use the we have a miscellaneous invoicing that allows you to sort of just create a miscellaneous invoice. So there's several ways to do the cost plus, and I can't tell you one's better. I personally think T&M is the best way to do it, but that's because that's what I've used in my past. So, but you can see we have T&M also, so
Does
it's
that-
available.
And then if so, do you set it up with like if we wanted to do T&M but like billing as a cost plus, do you enter like a factor that you're marking each line up, or how does that function?
Well, the T&M's built to be, you build the rate tables
Yeah,
on the
which is how we do it now.
right. Or if you're doing cost plus, you could also just post all the costs to the job. Then in the T&M, you can set up based on, I want to mark up the labor, 5%. I want to mark up the materials, 10%. Whatever you've negotiated, you could set it up in the T&M, and it would then apply that percentage when you go to bill it.
Well, that's cool.
It'll look at all the costs that's been posted to the job and then just apply
That would be cost plus.
the
Yeah.
markup percentage, which is the cost plus. That's the reason I said I would use T&M in our system.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
It would be the easiest way.
Right.
So do you go when you do? I mean, maybe you can just go to that bill or something. But
I'll show you.
okay.
On this one, I just wanted to show you this may not work. I just thought of something. I moved this template over to my other server. We're gonna try the print button and see if it works. It may crash on us because I just moved this template over to the other server on Monday. It's not gonna work. It'll sit here for a while and then it'll finally time out. So I'm gonna bounce over here. But it's just a customized template. It looks like the G7 things around because it's copywriting. We can't use the AIA form because it's copyright protected. So what we've done is in the certification statement, there are some things that have been moved around. It says basically the same thing, but you could put your own certification statement in there if you wanted to. On the G703, we've moved, the top section is rearranged just a little bit. The contract numbers above the submitted date, or the contract date. I mean, not contract, but the billing date. That's all that's flipped on it. And that's why we can get away, so it's not the AIA form. Sorry.
Yeah.
Spitfire's probably the same way.
Yeah. They're very, and I understand. If you were to purchase the electronic AIA permission, because you can buy the electronic
Yeah,
licensing.
Yeah.
we've done that before.
If you buy that, we could easily put it into the AIA format exactly. But if you don't purchase that, we don't supply it.
Right.
You don't have
Okay.
an issue with that, do you?
No, most of the time.
It's just,
We just use.
Most of the time, just the customer just wants the same information. It doesn't have to be the G702 or 703. It's just about what's on the invoice. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think they had reprinted
Okay.
Caltrans and shit because they needed it on the form.
now on the T&M billing, you can create a new one if you wanted to. You just select and you would enter the job. You can do selected or all cost codes. You would enter your date, and it would pull in the customer, and then it would go out to that job, and it would pull all the actual cost that is posted to that job. It would then pull it into the T&M, and it would apply all the rates and markups and overhead that you've set up in the rate tables. And that's what would display for you in the edit file, where you could then review everything, and if you wanted to adjust it, you just select the line. When you select on it, it brings it up into edit mode, and you can edit it. I have one out here, I believe. I'll show you what that screen looks like. So if I go to edit mode, you can see that these are line items that I have for this particular. It's actually it only had one cost code that I was billing because that's what I selected for this billing. So, but these are employee entries. If I had AP entries, it would then have the date, and it would also have the supplier and the invoice number on here. And it would apply the rates. If I wanted to edit any of these, all I do is I select on it. It brings it into the grid to allow me to modify it. So if I said, you know what, he didn't work 8 hours that day. He only worked 7.5, or maybe he worked, 10 hours. I've negotiated that I can increase the hours. Then I can easily change it. When I enter, it then adds it back with the modified values. If I want to add a miscellaneous item into here, I just go and, enter it. So if I said, we'll say, I don't know, January the 7th, I don't even know, and it was gloves. I'm just going to enter something real quick, or we'll say number 5 pipe. It's a material cost. It was 20, and it was, I don't know, $22. I'm just trying to think of an amount. I enter it, and when I enter it, it then adds that value in whatever I've added. So if something was, I knew there was an invoice out there, I just hadn't put it into the system yet, because the system can only bring in what it has in it. But I know I want to bill for it. I could enter those line items here.
okay. And then how do you remove line items that are already there?
Oh yeah. So if it came up in the next billing, so you're saying if it showed up in the next billing, I can just simply select on it, and then it's removed. At that point, I'm not going to add it back in. I would just go ahead and print, and it would show the value of the one I removed. And I can remove a bunch of them. I just keep clicking on them, and it keeps removing them from the list.
Oh, you just click on it and it removes it?
You double click, and you'll notice when I double click, it brings the value up here in the top.
Yeah.
So if it's already been billed, will it show up on the next bill?
That scenario of me typing it in, it doesn't know that exists in the system. So that's why I was giving an example of.
All those
But
ones
if
that you just deleted off of this one, will they show up on the next bill then?
Yes,
Because
because I
they're on
haven't
the-
billed them.
If you haven't billed them, but if they've been billed, they won't,
That is correct.
except for the one you hand typed.
Except for the one I hand typed. The one I hand typed, we can't recognize it. We don't know because the invoice didn't come through the system.
Right. So that one will show up every time, you just have to get it off there every time.
Yeah.
After
Exactly.
you've hit it one time, I see.
Yeah.
Still, it's
So-
fucking a lot easier than sales.
You'll still do validation in here to
Yeah.
make sure things, make sure that if I entered something, to make sure I remove it off the next bill. There's some, if you manually enter anything, those are where you have to do it. That's why we train people that very last T&M billing you do on that job, you open the search criteria up to be from the beginning of the project. So in case you've missed anything, it will pull all those records in. Because as soon as I bill this, when I hit accept, as soon as I bill it, it's marking all of these records that are displayed here as billed. And that's how we know when we pull in unbilled stuff every time we come in here.
And can you reverse T&M billing or any billing, I
Yeah.
guess? If you...
Yeah.
Okay.
We
I've had
have
to, and I
some-
just thought I
Yeah. Oh,
I think.
sorry about that.
No, she's not.
So basically though, just so you, sorry, I couldn't catch that cough in time. Just so you know, this is a red line copy also. I need to work on this template. I realized I moved this stuff around not long ago. Actually, it's not showing everything. I just noticed this template that I've chosen. I'll go over and show you another way to do it. But when you print this, what it does is it's a pencil copy or a red line copy. So you can provide that to the customer. It could be your formal, they think it's a formal invoice. Then you can come back in, adjust everything that you need to, but until you hit accept, it doesn't go over to AR yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to protect you during that editing, or I should say open negotiations with the customer. I don't know if you have that. I used to have it all the time.
Yeah. So then when you say accept, does it post, or is there like a posting process?
There's a posting process. So when I go into, let me close this. So on here, when I pull the invoices in, you'll see this accept button. Open up that one we were just working on. See how it pulled the records that we were just working with?
Mm-hmm.
I can go in and out of this all day until I hit that accept button.
Right.
When I hit the accept button, that is what sends it to AR. And then that's the posting.
can you select like a period to post it in, or does that matter?
That was my next question.
This is going to be based on invoice date. We didn't build in some of those
Okay.
nuances that you have in a lot of places. This is going to be based on invoice date. So let me exit and go back in. So on the front screen, you have your to and this to date is what it's going to use for the invoice
As your
date.
period.
Okay.
For the invoice date, yeah.
But, when it goes to post though, can you change that posting period?
Mm,
Like for example, let's say that we're late on billing and we're working in August on July's billing, but we want it to post in July.
Okay, let me open this up. I'm gonna pull in a job that is my testing job.
Isn't that happening?
I should have something out here because I've tested something. I think out here.
July 1st, July 31st. Probably should post in July.
Before-
That's what she's saying we would do.
Before I answer that, let me. Okay, so it pulled in some
It's not based on
information.
the date of your invoice, it's whatever the end date of the billing is. So if you're saying, oh, I'm billing to July 31st,
Oh, I
it's
see
post
what
in
you're
July.
saying.
Yeah. I mean, there are scenarios
But
occasionally
what if we
where
close a
don't.
month and we don't want to go backwards? About some issue.
I guess you just change the
That
date.
job.
You
Yeah.
can't change your transaction dates when the transaction's
Let me
So you would
go ahead.
So if we had, what if the month was closed? So let's say we're in August, but we're billing for July, and they happen to have July closed.
Which
But
we
it-
shouldn't, because.
It'll go
Yeah.
into the most current period that's open.
Okay.
It won't post back. So this one pulled in a subcontract invoice. I was hoping I'd have something out here. So when I hit accept, I think here on this screen I can dictate. Yeah, I can. GL period. I want to post it to.
Oh,
I
okay.
couldn't remember if that was available when I go into here, but yes, I can.
That's good. So you could change it when you accept.
Right.
Okay.
You could even change the invoice date and the GL period if you wanted to. It will default in here the to date that you had in there,
Uh-huh.
and you could override it.
What's the update button if you,
That's what sends it into AR.
oh, okay. Can you update it so if you put it in the wrong period, can you just come in here and change that and then click update? Is it
No.
that simple? Okay. Dang.
Update was meant strictly to send it and update the general ledger and all the subsidiary journals that it needs to hit.
Yeah.
So, no, unfortunately, no.
That would, yeah.
Yeah, ours are,
I'm not surprised
Yeah.
that, yeah. That doesn't.
I know. Good dream though.
I know, sorry.
No.
What you would have to do in the situation if you send it over to AR is you would have to go into AR, and we have auto reverse functions that exist,
Yeah.
and you would just do it. It would reinstate everything that you've billed, and then you could rebill it.
I mean, that's still nicer than what we have right now. Well, we do, there is that invoice reversal.
Well,
for
there's that, but then you still have to go post it. and
Yeah,
stuff.
but in the actual AR AP, there's no auto reversal. You have to know to, and you have to go create the credit memo and then
See,
to back it out.
yeah.
And so just having that auto reversal is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can go in and anything can be reversed. So you just go to inverse reversal and it reverses it out and reinstates the whatever type of billing it is. You do have this ability to do post invoice adjustments. This is an invoice that's been posted. You just have limited data that you can access here, just so you know. So if I was to go and look at one of mine, so there are some things where you can look at an old billing, and we'll create the journal entry correctly for you, but if I wanted to pull up something. This one. You can like adjust taxes, those types of things, and in here in the retainage. So, okay, it's very limited what
Meaning
you
that
can
if you
change.
put, if you did a billing and you put 5% retention, and then you did 3 of them, and you learned, oh shoot, it actually should be 10% retention, you can go back and call it 10%, and then it'll adjust the invoices, previous ones. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if it's a progress billing, that's the one we'll track the retainage on, so we can pull it in, and you would just do, maintain the retainage, and it would allow you to adjust it correctly, and it would post then correctly. Now here's the caveat with everything. I tell you, when you're dealing with progress billings, and especially with retainage or any progress billing, say I billed 5 progress billings and I realize that number 3 is the one that's incorrect. Billing number 3 is the one that's incorrect. I have to back out 5, then 4, then 3. Then I need to rebill 3, then rebill 4, and rebill 5. If not, your current amounts and your retainages can get off.
Makes
I
sense.
think that's how it is now. I don't think we ever
Yeah,
go back.
no,
to
yeah,
reversal.
it would, but I mean.
I've recently dealt with that. That's the reason I tell
You usually
everybody.
find that out on the very first invoice, and then I would just reverse the invoice and
Before you
change
do the
it.
next one.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I remember that being what we have to do. Reading that's what we have to do now. But for the most part, we don't run into that problem.
You don't bump into it, but just in case.
But well, yeah.
I want to make sure I tell somebody
That's what to do.
because that just recently happened with one of our customers.
Well, you reverse
They
it.
reversed like 2 billings back, and they couldn't figure out why their current amount was
I like
off
that
by.
red thing where you can,
So
So
it was a
they
mess
have
to clean up.
accept it before you actually post it to the
Yeah, I just do that manually now. I like
Yeah.
scan it or print it, sign it, scan it, and email it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's not too different.
But yeah, reverse. I mean, I don't post until I know, and then occasionally I do have to reverse something, but it's not. And you know, it does happen sometimes, like with the Samoa one. I ended up reversing it like 5 times, but that was more because of the.
Yeah, that was totally different, but.
Anyway.
Okay.
Let's see. So any questions on any of the different types of billings? I was trying to see if I could find a current billing out here that I could show you. That might have a good invoice on it. This one might, looks like. So this is one where this is an example. This is not one I would ever publish. So you could customize the invoice output.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a progress billing that's been put into like an invoice template. Is what this one is. Instead of it, remember how I was telling you that subtotal line is at the top and it's off?
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Okay. That was by the way, that was asking me if I wanted to email it, and I said no. You can't email the invoices to your customers, but if I email these, they go right to my email, and it's just more I have to deal with.
What happens? Do you have checks? So when that pops up, and just because I know our users, what happens if while it's waiting for a response from you, if they just happen to close the window? Is there a spot to go in to get back to finish it?
No.
Okay.
But we won't let you. So let me go back into it. I should have my select. What was that invoice? I have no idea what invoice I just picked. I was trying to pick a good one. I think this is the one I picked. No. Okay, so there's the template. So when I go back, I can't, there's no X.
Oh, and you can't close the window up top or power outage or something?
Power outage we can handle. Those are things we can restart.
Okay.
If they don't say it's okay to send the emails, that one really isn't a big deal. This is the one that's sort of a big deal.
Yeah, okay.
So they haven't responded to this, so we can easily, all they would do in this situation is we would treat it as a no.
Okay.
And so they could come back in here and just restart it.
Okay, and then they would just redo it.
And reselect it. There's some processes that once it starts, it's more, we have recovery files that we can use. So if a process starts processing and the power goes out, we can recover them.
Okay.
Those are usually like AP postings
Yeah.
and payroll postings.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that you really want to recover. If it's a report, those are totally different because
Yeah.
we just
That's just like data.
we go reset the flag behind the scenes if it's not, and then
Yeah.
they can just move on. But when it's a true posting, we have safeguards in place to help you restart that process.
Okay.
I hope that clarified everything.
Yeah. Oh, do you give us those processes, or is that something we generally would call the support and they help us out?
You would call us.
Yeah. Okay.
It would be what we would consider a critical down,
Yeah.
meaning that your all business has stopped.
Yeah.
Business processes have stopped. When you get those hard errors, like things go down in the middle of a posting like that, chances are you're going to be on the line immediately to us.
Yeah.
You're either going to be shooting us an email or you're going to be calling us to tell us, look, power went out. I was doing payroll.
Okay.
We have programmers that are on our SWAT team, as we call them. We always have programmers that are available for SWAT for situations like this. If something happened, they would dial into your server and then they would assist in getting it restarted.
Yeah.
And we have passwords and stuff that they have to enter to even do that functionality, not on your server, but just to even get into it. We have passwords of the day that they have to use
Yeah.
because we try to lock down the software is what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Okay.
So you as a user don't have access to the password of the day to overwrite files, and it's for auditing purposes.
Mhm.
Because we got to make sure when we reset it, we reset journals, we reset all these things that have to be reset for auditing.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So, any questions about AR, or did I address all your questions?
No, I think that was it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Kira, I know you've been talking. Where would you like me to? What would you like me to show you next?
How about us, creating a subcontractor agreement?
Okay. So, creating a subcontract, you just go to the subcontract module. I have mine in data entry. I mean, these are things that, of course, keep in mind, you can create a menu that has these in it. I guess I could have went to the controller menu. These are just how I've organized it, remember?
Yeah.
So I have subcontract, I think, in here if I look for it. But the first thing you do is set up the subcontract. So if I was setting up one for your new job, we'll just set one up real quick. SPG 01 B16 -001. Is it a new yes, it's a new subcontract. So I need to tell them what it is. So this is the, I don't know, carpentry. Is what I'm going to call it, and it's SPG 01 B16. Subcontractor is, I'm trying to think who I'll pick on today. These are my subcontractors on my system. You would have your own. I don't know. Who am I going to pick on? I don't know who to pick on. We'll do CB Supply. I'm just keying through these. I'm going to say that I can do pending or approved, and then you have two options. We're going to go ahead and approve this one. I know you wouldn't typically do that. You can have your start and completion dates. 12/31/17. You can enter your dollar value here. It's $15,000. No tax, and it's 07, that's my cost class for me for subcontractors. On the line items, I need to go in and define the line items, so I can say rough carpentry. If I could type. I probably need to associate it with one of the cost codes that you have for rough carpentry. So here it is, 8,500. Well, we'll do, cancel. Let me do one and lump sum, and 8,500. You can do either way, it's up to you. Save, and then I would add a line item for finished carpentry. And finished carpentry, this is going to be 60, what was it? I was going to look at it, but 6430. And all I'm doing is I'm associating this subcontract with my cost codes. And it's one lump sum, and it is 6,500. Wouldn't that be 5,000? Yep. 15,000, save. Now I've set up the two line items I'm going to be billing on. I also have compliance items that I need to collect from my subcontractors. I can go ahead and mark them required. So I'm going to require that they have general liability. I want their insurance, lien waivers. And these are things that I've defined on my system. Signed contract and safety class. Now, if I've received their documents, their insurance certificates, I could go ahead and mark it received and put the expiration dates. For this, I'm going to say no, I'm not going to enter them yet. I need to go collect them for this specific job. On the withholdings, if you're doing, standard, you want it to always do 10%, you can enter that. If you're doing insurance, bond, or work comp, you're supplying for the subcontractors, you can enter the percentage and the maximums. You can add additional notes if you want to, and we have additions. But if I go ahead and
withholdings, if your job already has 10% retainage, does it automatically pull that in?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just a default. I can override it if I need to.
Okay.
Oh.
Just double checking.
Yeah. So if I need to, I can overwrite that withholding amount. So it's going to default to 10%, but it's the very last billing, or the next to last billing. So I've reduced it. I'm only going to hold 5%.
You can override
You
it.
can just, overwrite with 5%.
Yeah, good.
Okay. So once you've created the subcontract, then you can use AIR to do your progress billings.
What about
Um,
getting the contract to the sub? Because that created it in the system,
Oh.
but
Okay, so that created the system. We have a way that you can take Word documents, and I think we talked about this when we were there. We have you can take Word documents and upload them into the system, and then you can customize them by putting merge fields on them.
yeah,
And we
right.
supplied you like a merge list. So what you can do is, if you wanted to write the subcontracts from our system, these are just examples of different subcontracts I have. Some of these are ones that customers have supplied to me. If I say, I select one, I say, okay, I can pick company A. No, I'm going to do a selected job. I'm going to do your job, SPG 01B16. And we'll go ahead and do all subcontracts because I only have one. I could do selected or arrange, but I only have one, so it's not going to be a big deal. So if I say CB supply, I go next, and then I just say create letters, and I say okay. It's going to take the data from the subcontract and the job, and it's going to then populate my subcontract with that data.
Okay.
So now this is just this one that a customer supplied to me. This was their typical one that they had. You can put in any one you want to.
Okay.
It's just a Word document.
Yeah. Got it.
This is a succinct way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you see we have write lien waivers. You don't have to use this function. This is if you want to send them out. You need to recreate them. For some reason, when you were printing the checks and the releases, the printer jammed. And you don't want to go redo the whole check run. So you said, okay, well, I'll just go and write these real quick. This is sort of a quick fix to the lien waivers. But they do run at the time of AP check processing. So if you identify a job needs a lien release, or a subcontract needs a lien release with it, then it'll automatically create it for you. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. We have lots of inquiries. These give you like the analytics like we were showing you before. So when you're trying to analyze the data, these are great tools because they supply all that information and you get to customize it, and you can have drill down if you wanted to with the blue fields. These are the different reports I've created just on, this particular view. If I go to like contract amounts, these are different, these are actually different. So if I said, show me SPG, these are the 2 line items I'm billing on that subcontract. So on the subcontract, I can create these elements or on my report to show me what has been billed, what's retained, what's the remaining amount of the subcontract.
Okay.
You can also set up pay when paid. So remember how I was associating the subcontract with a particular cost code? When you're creating the AR billing for the customer, there's an option. If you've created subcontracts, it'll ask you when you go to bill it, it'll say, do you want to create the subcontracts? And if you say yes, what it will do is it will create the subcontract billings that you can then go modify the percentages. Because what it's going to do is it's going to default the percentages from the AR billing into the subcontract progress billing. Well, as we know, that's never what I bill the subcontractor. But it links the two together, the AR billing and the subcontract. So you go in, modify it, the subcontract, you post it. Now the customer issues you a check for that progress billing. So when you go to the cash receipt, it will then take the hold off of the subcontract so you can pay it because you received the cash. So now you can pay the subcontractor. So that's pay when paid.
So it's, I mean, I hear what you're saying. It's based on the AR and the percentages for the line items that we're billing the owner, and then it creates the subcontractor invoice.
Well, it creates the billing, the placeholder. You're going to go in and modify that. So say you, on the AR billing, you bill 50%. Well, it'll create the subcontract
Payable.
billing. It doesn't update it. It
The-
creates it.
The
And
payable
then
for
you
the
go
sub,
in.
right?
You're,
Are you talking
yeah,
about
the payable for the sub.
payable?
But what it does is it's going to save for 50%. Well, I need to change that because I'm only going to pay my sub 30%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I change him to 30%, and then I would bill it to AP.
But it doesn't
But that's-
auto.
Right. So, but that doesn't mean that the sub, maybe the sub didn't necessarily bill though.
No. But what, do you have to configure that, or that's already coming out of the box? That's set up as part of the deal?
You have to go in and tell the system you want to use pay when paid.
But you'll do it.
But it'll just
We'll set
automatically
all
do it.
up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it says
But
that.
that's a good way that you don't forget one.
Yeah.
You know, because right now what happens is, and this happens
Have to
all
look
the
at the
time,
owner
and this
invoice.
really pisses off our CEO, who manages cash. Somebody comes in and we do the billing to the owner, and 2 weeks later, a subcontractor sends his bill in, and then somebody processes through the system, and we never billed the owner for it. Well,
Right.
because they didn't put the invoice in. But what you're saying is, if you go bill line item by line item to the owner, that it's gonna auto-generate the subcontract payables.
Right, but then,
Correct.
I mean, that's kind of opposite of the way, like, we put the responsibility on the sub to get their bill in
Right.
now, and
Right.
then if they don't get their bill in, then we don't bill the owner, because it's like, well,
Yeah.
you didn't get your fucking bill in, so,
Well, it
too
sounds like this
bad,
goes both
so
ways.
sad, yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It does both of them. But at least what it does is
Maybe we
it
should be doing it
prevents.
that way.
Keep the subs happier.
Well, plus, we're supposed to be trying to get as much as we can and overbilling. I mean, that's my philosophy, but
No, it's not, you always told me not to overbill.
that's because Dan doesn't wanna overbill, but I think you should always try to get as much cash as you can. Then
I
you're-
know
then you're-
that's the theory.
I'm with you.
Then you're up on the,
I know, I understand the theory behind overbilling
Right.
or not, or.
but Dan just doesn't do it because then he can't manage cash properly. That's the issue.
Well,
I'm with you, Chris.
I
Get as much as you can.
Yeah, and just get a good cash management plan in place. Don't use your billing as your cash management tool.
Right.
That's what I say.
I totally hear you. Michelle and I started a cash flow. Well, actually, Michelle started
Well,
it.
we barely started it.
I
Does this
know.
have do you have a cash management tool within the system?
We do.
I figured you would say
We do.
that.
We have a cash flow ability within the general ledger, so you can look at open AR and open AP and project out. You can also add miscellaneous things, like you're going to have a bonus payout to your employees that's going to fall this month. You could put that in the cash flow calendar, so you at least are aware that you're going to be sending these bonuses out. So it helps you manage the cash. Now, if you're trying to cash flow your jobs, I would suggest using that business analytic, the one that I was showing you before, the contract status. You could build a cash flow in there, because I actually have built that. So if I go here to the contract status, I have a cash flow report, my cash position report, and that's what it shows you. It's going to show me exactly where I'm at on my jobs, so I know here's my open AR, my open AP, but over here to the right, I'm showing you, here's my net cash flow.
Yeah.
Please don't look at these jobs, they're awful.
No,
Yeah, right. It's just an
It's-
example, right?
it's overbilling.
Yeah, it's your overbilling, so you're underbilling, but it's showing in the cash flow, so you can now look at it to say, okay, well, what's going on with these jobs? So this is, this one's showing you
Open AR and open
my current
AP
budget, my
sitting
billings
there
to
like
date,
that.
my
Now
costs.
to run a fucking report.
This is on the executive summary, the same exact thing, by far. just nobody uses
It
it.
doesn't have the open. I use the executive summary all the time, but it doesn't have OpenAR and OpenAP.
It does. And it has cache conversion too. It takes into place all of it.
Just in the default template out of the executive summary.
Well, it does on mine, yeah, or it always did.
You're talking about the dashboard, or are you talking about? You're talking about the dashboard.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I know it's there.
I think you're.
All
talking,
I'm saying
no,
is
you're talking about the dashboard.
all
isn't
I'm
it?
saying is the information's in the system, but you have to use it, and that's part of my.
Well, right,
theme.
but I think that this is a better.
I'm not arguing it's not better. I'm just saying. Like,
Well, I'm just saying I think that this is a more usable format. That right now you have to go into each job to see that data.
no, you don't. But that's okay. I'll show you.
I look at the executive summary constantly. I build reports out of that.
I started it. I
Oh my
know.
god. Okay. I'm not trying to have a competition with you right now.
Anyway, keep going,
You
Rosie.
sound like brother and sister.
We'll duke it out after this.
We're kind of competitive here at Danco, so we tend to get in little spats occasionally.
Kira thinks she knows everything.
I do not. I absolutely do not know everything. That would be a boring world if I did. Okay, that's great.
Okay.
Can you show the submittal process now?
I can. So submittals exist. Let me back up just a little bit. They exist in a module we call Project Control. And under Project Control, this is really the paperwork side of project management. This is where you create submittals and issues and RFIs and punch lists and daily jobs and meeting minutes, and you're doing all that paperwork stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see that when I go to Project Control, I have a list of jobs. To make an active job that you're working with, you can use the analytics to narrow your search, just like I've done before. All you do is you click on it, and when you click on it, I have it default to go to this see, you got me saying executive dashboard, this tile dashboard, that all I've done, what you're looking at right now is these items, these tiles are just this menu down the left represented in tiles.
Yeah.
Because when you send it to a project manager, they don't like to look at things like this. They like to look at something that looks like this.
Yeah, they're like 7-year-olds. Yeah.
You said it. You said it. I've dealt with some that I don't even think were that age bracket.
Yeah.
But, so when I'm looking, I'll use the Launchpad because it's really easy to use it. But at the top, I'm identifying what job I'm working under. I could go pick another job by just using this select job, so I can bounce back and forth between the different jobs. But you asked about submittals. So you see I have a tile that says submittals. So when I click on this, what it's going to open up is a panel that shows me the log of all submittals that I've created so far.
Mm-hmm.
So this is your submittal. Well, I don't know what's going on with my mouse. But you can see when I open this up, this is a view I've created called submittal logs. This is using business analytics so you can customize it. So I just have this list of different submittals that I've created. And submittals are a great place to start when I'm dealing with project control. The functionality I'm going to show you here exists for a lot of the things that will, like issues and RFIs and transmittals. They all use look and feel just like this. The very first screen you see is the log. If you wanted to go into the most recent activity on one of these, you just click on it. I was trying to find the one that had, maybe it's this one. You click on it. When you click on it, it then opens up the most recent activity. So when I open this up, you can see that this says event number 15. And you'll also notice that I have tabs of data. The very first screen you're looking at is what we call the communication screen. This is used for emailing. Okay. We have built a tool within Project Control that allows you to capture the ball and court of emailing that happens outside the system.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best way to describe it. Now, in our system, I'm going to back out for a second. In our system, you have to create the initial something or log. So from that point on, once you create the log, we can track outside the system all the emails that happen between the engineer, the customer, the architect, the field staff, whoever's communicating on this submittal, we can track it. So we track that ball in court, but you do have to have the log for us to identify it.
Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Before I move on. Okay, so when I click on this, you're gonna see that this is event number 15. It's just telling me that this right now was an email that came into the server from outside into the server. Oh no, this is one that, well, it sort of came from the outside. This is one from me, and it's assigned to the engineer, Reason Rinker, and you can see that I'm just telling him, thanks for the information, we'll move forward with this one. So this was my response to him, which I did through my normal Outlook. It's just
Right.
showing it here.
Right.
Well, how do you get it there? By putting the subject?
It's not even the subject line. They're embedded on the email when you generate the log. Like I said, you got to create one initial entry in here, create the log, and email it out of the system. We embed the information within the email, similar
as
to
long
like,
Oh,
as
as long as it's
reply,
a
it's in
reply,
that chain.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. So
Everything
when they
is in
reply
that
to the
information.
email in any
It'll stick with
form,
it. Got it.
it pulls that data back and forth, and
Gotcha.
we track it.
Got it.
Okay, it's something similar to like if you asked a question on somebody on, I don't know, eBay, you used to do it. Amazon, if you send something to the seller, it knows what item you're talking about, that they sell thousands of them.
As long as they
It's that same
reply,
technology.
as long as they reply to the original, but if somebody just decides, screw it, I'm gonna just generate a brand new email, that wouldn't go in
Mhm.
there.
It wouldn't come in here, but you could pull it in.
Okay. I see.
So, there's a way for you to get it into our system if they do answer outside the replied email. It takes a little manual intervention from you, but you can still do it. On the submittal tab, submittals are a little unique. There's a lot of data that you need to track and a lot of different dates that you need to track. It has its own tab on its own, to identify, what is the spec section, the paragraph, all those dates we're talking about, and then like suppliers and manufacturers you might be dealing with. So this is information about the submittal. When you go to issues, I'll come back to issues. Enclosures, these are going to be documents that you're sending back and forth. So if I was sending one out of the system, I could drag and drop it like I've done before. You take a document, you just drag it over here and it'll attach it as to DocPro, but it also attach it to this submittal. Now, if they reply to an email and they put an attachment in it, it'll pull that document into the document repository and associate it with this RFI and this job and all that tagging I was talking about. We put it on the documents. It's done behind the scenes, nothing you have to do, no intervention from you, it's done automatically. You can identify other people you want to respond to the email. Same like if they hit reply and they respond, it'll come back in here. We also can track the transmittals that have happened on this particular communication. Now this one's only had one transmittal that's created because like I told you, even though there's 15 events, only one of these is the one that was started in my system. So it's the only one that has a transmittal on it because the transmittal is the email that I sent out. Okay, so if I want to view that transmittal, I can open it up. It'll show me the email. Here's the email details on it. If I want to look at the actual email, I can open it up and see it here, and it'll open up my Outlook and show me what it looked like in Outlook. Here's the submittal PDF. This is just I've done nothing to this template. It's a standard template. I attempted to add a logo to it without any success. I don't know what was wrong with my logo. I've never gone out and corrected it. I need to correct it. But this is the submittal that was attached, asking, the question and then what were we doing with it. It opened up everything. We can also look at the physical email. Here's the nice thing about this. So say you need to send this to somebody else. I could forward it to somebody right from here. Maybe this came in and now I said, wait a minute, what do I need to do? So I need to forward it to somebody I can, or I can just type a reply from here and we'll log it for you. So now if I go back to the issues tab, issues is our way of linking things together. So you can create an issue, and it's sort of a placeholder if you think of it like that. I can associate submittals with an issue, and I could do RFIs with an issue, and I could do meeting minutes with an issue, and a change order with an issue. And then if I go into the issue, I can see all these different, project control types that have happened on it. So if I want to look at the meeting, I can look at the meeting. If I want to look at the change order, I can look at the change order. And it creates like hyperlinks to the specific areas. So that's what we gather in here. Now, if I wanted to, I could, swap the role, and I could send a transmittal out if I wanted to. I just go to mail transmittal just to show you what it looks like. And it creates the transmittal, it attaches that submittal document, and then it would take the information from that communication screen that we were previously looking at, and it would put it in here. It will automatically pull in the emails that you've identified as the person you're talking to, so that reply to the ball in court, it'll put it in that address, and then the CC would be all those additional recipients. And so once you send it, they can go out and approve it. Now this history hyperlink that you're looking at here, this is your way to look at the ins and outs of all the things that have happened outside the system or in the system. So you can see if I scroll all the way to the bottom, I sent some out to Reason, but I was probably just changing the dates is what I was doing. See, I was changing the dates because I probably started it, never finished it, came back in. These are all events, but I never sent any kind of email out. This is the one that I sent something out, so I could click on it. It would then open up that submittal number 9, and this is me asking the question that I needed to ask him on the submittal and get some information back. Now, I'm going to open up a different one. I thought that's the one I was looking at. Can't see this because it's awful small. I'm going to go into the history on this one because this is a really good one that I worked with a couple of clients on it. And I'm going to scroll down to the history on it, down to the bottom. You can see that this original one was started by me. I sent it to Tracy. Tracy received it, and she replied to me and said, please find the carrier documentation. Then I sent it back to Tracy and said, oh, where's the one for me to Tracy? So this is the one I said to Tracy. I did flip it on this one, that's what it is. I sent it back to Tracy, can she send me additional information? Then she replied, said, sorry about that, here's the other documentation on the submittal. So if I open this one up, you're gonna see that it's filled in the email from her reply. It's going to show me all the details from the submittal. Everything's grayed out because, again, this is locked down. It's a historical record. If I go to the enclosures, here's the document she sent me from her personal email, which happened to be Google. She was using a Gmail when she replied to me. And I could select any of these if I want to look at the engineer's response. I can look at the engineer's response. This one went through about 19 revisions because this one, he's telling me this is obsolete. I need more current information. So the only there was 3 communications in this whole thing that happened within the project control module. That was the initial one that I created, and then there's one, this one I created in the system, and then there's another one up at near the top that I created in the system. Those are the only 3 that were actually created here on this screen, or should I say, this screen. Everything else was handled through Gmail, Yahoo, and Outlook.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you, so, let's see.
Do you have standard submittals?
If something's
you
like
use?
rejected, I'm
Mhm.
assuming you can have that status, and then does it create like a .1 as a separate line item, or it's just part of the history, or how does that?
It just becomes part of the history. So in here you have your different statuses that you'll
Yeah.
create. These are the ones that I have in my system.
Yeah.
So these are just ones I used to have when I used to do these. So I have rejected, because that's one, if I want to reject that one, I can. If I need this, that would reject this particular one. I'd have to start a new one if I wanted to. Was what I would have done. I would have set another submittal item.
Right.
And
Or you can just do or revise and
Or you could do
submit, and then-
yeah, or you could do a reference and create a new reference extension on it if you wanted to, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
And both of them would work. I just hadn't thought about it till. I hated when things got rejected. That's not something I like to test. We're talking real life. Now, do you have standard submittals that you use on every job? Or
Well,
specific
not
customer or architect or engineer?
not really. I mean,
Mix
'Cause
design or something.
yeah.
There's two-
There could be a possibility but not really. It's pretty.
As I say, there's a functionality you can use. You have the Excel, so you can create just an Excel spreadsheet that has all these fields in it. It is a true CSV. You just, Michelle, so you know, at the top you put the database name in the top, and it imports it. It creates this log for you.
Okay.
Okay. You can also do a copy and paste from an existing job that you have set up out here. And then it would copy these all in. It would knock out the whole history that you've created, but it creates the starting point for you to then use to go and identify the different engineer, architect, subcontractor, whoever you're communicating with. You have to set them up because they're different on every job.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are some copy functions that are really nice. Okay, so submittals are very easy in our system. RFIs, same thing. Again, the first screen you see is the log. These are the different RFIs I have for this job. I could, click on one of these. It would then open up the most recent activity, or I can go to the history and I can see all the email communications that have happened. Okay, has the same look and feel. This is by design, just so you know. Chris, you talked about them being 7 years old. The look and feel that we have for these different functionalities, the RFI, the submittal, the transmittal, the issue, because they don't have to learn how to do something in different places. They know that if they open it up and it's RFI, it looks like the submittal. It's pretty self-explanatory. I know the first screen is the screen I need to put my email on. The second one is, the issue. The third one's the enclosure. The fourth one. So they know what they're entering. It looks and feels the same. So we try to help the project managers with ease of use, something familiar.
We have
You learn it
we
once.
have one that just walked in the room, so don't tell him what I said.
Oh, poor guy.
Retards.
No,
I
we
was a
didn't
project
say
manager.
that.
I can't
Build
say
shit.
that. I can't say that. I was a
Called
project
you
manager.
paperwork.
It's a lot of work.
Well,
It's more work than I
Rosie's-
ever signed up for.
Rosie's selling point is that those little icons right there can make it easy for you guys who are paperwork challenged. That was her point.
Well, I think he could look at that and say, "Oh, well, that's submittals," and he opens it up and he goes, "Oh, what's that first screen? Well, this is your
Chuck's
submittal
actually a
log."
lot higher level than some of the guys out there.
Yeah. Chuck can navigate pretty well.
Okay,
We're talking Terry.
so you'll be training everybody else, is what I'm hearing.
He's never gonna use it no
Yeah,
matter
he
what.
doesn't care what it is.
I haven't even considered carrying this whole
He
thing.
doesn't even care.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just so you know, Michelle, she actually sent me a layout of things that maybe the project managers that aren't so savvy could use. And so this is just showing them the budgets and actuals for the job that they've selected. This would take them into budget revisions for the job. This would take them into owner change orders. This would take them into RFI. This would take them into submittals. And what did I create this icon for? Oh, the project hot list.
Can we make our own icons, or do we have to use yours?
Nope. we can make
Oh
it.
no, you can have your own. Definitely have your own. These are just ones that I've used for presentations.
Can you show us the owner change order?
So if I click on change orders, these are the change orders. Oh, that's the context. I didn't point this. Michelle, I had this set up. I don't know what I did. This is, okay, so this is the same screen. What I did was I split this screen into two things. I have two different views. I have one that's an internal budget revision, and I have one that's called the change order log. So for your presentation, I don't know what I did here. It's okay. It doesn't matter. So all they would do, this is the log, just like they had before. This is the change order log. This is going to be an internal change order instead of a customer change order, and I'll show you that if you want me to. When you drill down, you can see that you have those same tabs across the top. The very first screen is going to show you, your communication screen. This is used, again, if you need to email it out. You do not have to use that functionality, but if you want to, you can. Let me expand this a little bit so you can see all this buttons. You're missing the buttons. There. You could enter your information you want to use for emailing on the line items themselves. I had created views in here that had taken all the quantities out. Did I create that in a different environment? I might have in my craziness. But basically, it's using business analytics so you can customize it. So what I had done is I'd taken all these quantity things off of it in the unit of measure, because that's not something you really need to deal with on this one. And I don't care about this. So I had created a pretty simple view. And where's the cost code? So I had created a view that looked like this. Save this real quick. This is
These views can be reused on multiple jobs.
Yep. Yep. So all it does is, when I come in, it would show me this. Then I would just enter the details. This is it's a material cost class. So what am I affecting? My cost class is not showing up.
We know.
I don't know what I did to this one, but you would enter your materials, then you would enter your extended cost, $500, whatever it is. You can mark it as pending. You get to define these. These different definitions can dictate when it posts to accounting, because this is really intended for the project manager. In my system, the only ones that affect my change order over in accounting is that I have a change order raised and also pending. Both of these create my change order for me.
If you have pendings,
Are they?
if you have pendings or proposed,
Yeah.
you can get those on your forecast report, your budget report.
As long as they've been sent to accounting, yes.
Oh, so if
You
if you haven't sent them to, because a lot of times you have a budget going along, and you've got 5 pending change orders that aren't approved, so you don't want to send them to accounting, but you still
Right.
want to see them.
Yeah, and you can do that. The whole thing is even pending in our system goes to accounting, because in accounting we have pending and approved change orders.
Okay.
and we track both of them.
Okay.
Though pending in here doesn't have to coincide with pending and accounting, I would typically say yes, it does, but you get to define what these do. It's a little
They
more
don't
flexible
post
than that.
when they're pending and accounting, they're just over there?
They're over there for reporting purposes.
Got it. Okay.
So you could do that, because in job costing, we have original budget, we have approved change orders, and we have pending change orders. We also have revised budget, which is going to have original cost budget plus approved change orders. And then we have proposed budget, which includes all three of them: original, pending, and approved change orders, all added together. That's proposed budget.
I see.
And we track all of that individual buckets. So
And
And this was an owner change order, right?
This was an internal change order.
this is an internal change order.
Cost only, no revenue.
oh, okay, so that's cost only, no revenue. Okay.
Yeah. So if I was doing a owner change order,
So
then
actually,
I would
if you
have-
hold on just a second so I could explain, well, we had talked about doing the screen for that, so when they click that button, it would show the report on one half of the screen that has your budgets versus actuals, so they can see where they're at. And then the other half of the screen would have that one line where you pick your cost code and then your new cost, or your extended cost or whatever.
I saw that last demo.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But I'm wondering on the I forgot what I was gonna say. Never mind.
Owner change order? No.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I wanna see an owner change order.
Yeah, I do too. I know what it was. You can open up different fields and add as much detail as you want, like units and.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
she had just closed down, right? When-
Yeah.
Oh, I know what it was. Okay. So in the current system, Spitfire, you can just go in and do a manual budget update. You don't have to do it through change order, which I'm not saying I like. I'm just saying it's capable. Can you do that here?
So say that one more time.
In Spitfire, you can go in and do a manual budget update. You don't have to go do a change order. Like if you, let's just say you want to change line item 5, which is rough carpentry, and you want to add $50,000 to it. You don't have to go do a change order. You can just go in to the budget and change it to 50,000 to the new budget number.
You can, but you're going to be overriding the original budget values if you change it, which is fine. You can do that.
Yeah, I don't think we want to. I think you should. I mean, Dorothy's whole claim was that's not smart business. You should do it. You
Well,
should do change orders.
And we
Track.
want us to be able to at least see the original budget,
Yeah.
you know, later for,
Yeah, and Spitfire has a system where it holds the original.
Yeah.
But this is better. This is more like how American Contractor was, where you had to do a change order.
I never thought I'd hear you say that.
Well, I mean, it's fixated. American Contractor sucked in so many different ways, but you had to go in and do a change order in order to update the budget. Yeah, you're right. I never said that because it was such a freaking dinosaur.
It was worth hearing you see it to see Michelle smile from ear to
It was like based in DOS.
it does look like DOS. When I see the
It
old
was.
reports and I ask Kathy to pull information for me, I'm always like, oh my
Yeah.
god.
Does it look like an old reed bar? Okay, so who said they wanted? Was that you? Who was it? Kathy, did you say you wanted to see
Kira.
owner change orders?
It's
Was that
Kira.
Kira?
It's Kira, yeah.
Kathy,
Okay.
we didn't invite Kathy.
Oh, I thought y'all had Kathy in there earlier.
No.
No, I didn't hear her. Okay, I thought I heard her earlier. Okay, so
She came in for like a second to get something signed or something.
she's like, I'm out of here. I don't want to do this again.
Oh,
With-
she's already bought in.
So what I did was, while y'all were talking, I went out and corrected this launch pad so it would open up the correct thing. So when I click on it, what it does is it's going to take me into the change order log. Right now I have it set to show me only the customer change order. So these are the two that are affecting the customers. And so if I select on one of these, when I open it up, it's going to show me on the very first screen the details of what is part of the change order, so my scope of work, etc. Then on my line items, these are the change orders that I've created that I'm going to bill. So if I need to add a new one, I just click add, and then I enter the details of what is it affecting. Okay. And you can see I've created it. So my revenue cost code, my contract item, I probably take out cost class. You don't even need it here. That was my bad.
It's all revenue, right? That's the cost.
It's all revenue, yeah. So I could just say this, get rid of it, because I don't need it in that view. And then I could say the revenue cost code is what cost code is affecting what revenue. I don't know. Do you have one revenue cost code on your jobs, or do you reflect the revenue on each cost code?
You just do one line. I don't know. You have multiple. Schedule values says like 20.
Well, the schedule of values is different. This is how the revenue reflects on the job.
Yeah, it depends, but a lot of the time I have it in one.
Well, there's only one account category for revenue.
Yeah, contract revenue, there's one account category, yeah.
That was what the question was?
She's talking cost code, so it's not the account category, but like you
It's
could
not
choose.
the job.
You could choose any
It's
cost
not
code
the-
and have
Oh,
contract
I see.
revenue as an account category.
But, I see.
But-
You don't
Yeah.
break it.
Yeah,
We
you
usually
don't
just
break
use
it down
one
in
cost
the
code for the contract.
job cost code.
Or I create new ones for change orders, like
Yeah.
0000-001 for change order 1, and then yeah. So okay, so if this is just
think I have that
revenue,
on
you don't enter the expense side of a.
That was my question.
Yeah, you don't have to enter the expense. Now, if I want to, I could have a screen that has both of them.
Well,
I
they're
can
not.
have a screen.
But they're not in the same, like, so right now, when we enter an owner change order, I add line items for the expense amount. So let's just say, we're hiring a subcontractor to do $30,000 of site concrete, and the owner decided they wanted some more, curbs or something. And so I'll enter the line item with our normal, 03100 cost code, subcontractor account category, the $30,000 expense amount. I can either mark up that line item, or I can add another line item that's revenue that marks up that expense amount by whatever percentage I want.
You can have that.
Okay.
So it just depends. It would just when Michelle and I walked through this, she wanted them separated because she was thinking the guys were entering these, and they needed it very simple. Okay,
Yeah,
if
I mean,
you
they
wanna
don't-
do it,
They don't write. Yeah, I mean they are kind of. They're
It's
a
just
little
for
more
you.
complex.
It's
You
just
probably
opening
have-
field is what you're saying.
Yeah, the field
yeah,
guide.
it's just displaying the fields that you need.
Okay.
So over to the left, I
You can do it
have
however you wanna
this
do
is
it.
the cost code, and then over to the right, I have the revenue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No,
I'm seeing the
that's
theme.
fine. That's fine. I just was curious, but
Yeah.
Uh,
So it just depends, because we can, I have all these different views. I can flip back and forth from them. So maybe yours, Kira, has all of that, but then the guys need something more simplistic. You can have it more simplistic for them.
and then can you tie? I might just not be seeing the header, but can you tie the expense amount I'm talking about to an existing commitment or subcontract?
I can, hold on. So you're talking about adding the subcontract field. So you want to add the subcontractor and the subcontract item? That's what you're talking about?
Well, what she's saying is she has a current subcontract with Bill White Electric. And
Mhm.
he is the owner wants to add new 10 light fixtures. And Bill White Electric gave us a price to it. So at the same time we generate the owner change order, we also want to generate the subcontract change order based on the owner's change, all in one spot.
Right, okay. So right now, I can identify the subcontract and the subcontract item that's being affected. It is not tied into the subcontract at this current moment. It is something that we have on the development plan that doesn't exist today.
Got it.
So
But
you
it is
have
on
to
the
go in
development
and do
plan.
a separate vendor change order.
Right, for right now, you do. It's something that's gonna be done in the near future, but we had to push it down the development list because there were things we needed to, we wanted to present it at the conference, so it got pushed down the list.
Yeah. So okay. So then yeah, in that scenario,
You
it
lose-
probably would make more sense just to put a revenue.
Yeah.
Have a revenue.
Because you
If it-
lose that, because you have that.
if it's-
capability to-
And just so you know,
It takes a while.
personally,
Crashes.
if you guys had to have it for this contract, we could write it into the contract, Chris.
What? No, I'm just saying Spitfire does it for us now.
Right,
That's
right.
what we're saying.
And like I said, it's something that it's on the development list to finish. We just haven't, that piece needs to be tied in.
I think
Okay?
No, what she's
No,
saying is
they can
that
include it in the.
it's in their development. They've already heard this feedback
Yeah.
and they've told their developers, but they haven't paid them to do it yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but see, there's things we can do during the contract process that we can, say, well, as part of the contract, this has to be completed.
We're not saying it's
Great.
a deal killer, we're just bringing it up. We speak very openly and candidly.
Well, I'm saying it's a deal killer. Because I want it done.
Yeah, I was just gonna
I
say
want it. Personally, I want it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit of the change order process in Spitfire is definitely takes a bit time consuming, but it does do everything you need it to do.
It does, but you do have to really think it through, like how it works in the system. You have
know
to,
what you're doing.
yeah, you have to understand how everything is connected, or it just fucks everything up.
Yeah. Bill can't.
Which is why I am the only one who enters owner change orders because, or how. Chuck can do it.
Chuck can.
Chuck's good at it. But I don't trust anyone else to do it because I know it's just gonna get super fucked up.
Well, the other thing too, Rosie, just to ask this question is also you can enter 10 lines and say mark them up 15%, and it'll go mark them all up.
And you can do that. There's a markup table you can set up. This is the ones I display. It doesn't have those markup tables built into it, but all it would do is if I went back into that change order one, when I enter the cost values in these not pay quantities, but the this extended unit cost, when I enter something here, it marks the revenue up. I just don't have those markup tables set up. I don't like anything to calculate for me. I like to plug the numbers.
Well, for the guys in the
if you
field, we'll set it up, or sometimes we have a contract that says change orders can only be marked up 15%. And so we'll want to set it up in advance so they don't have to go get the spec book out and read it every time if they're going to be interested.
Yeah. And you can set that up. It's just a simple markup table that you set up.
So what if, disregard the subcontractor, it's not attached to their contract, but like if I did put in an expense amount, to a cost code and then did that, we had a markup amount set up, how does that hit the budget? Like how would that, it would increase the revenue, but would it increase the expense?
Whatever you put in these line items is what it's going to increase it. So all these line items, when I'm using the one that's like that combined view that we were looking at, which is the one we were talking about earlier. So whatever I put in these buckets is what translates in post for me.
Yeah.
So anything that's in the extended revenue goes into the revenue side. Anything that's unit extended cost, goes into the job budget.
Okay.
But it just doesn't update the commitment.
Right, doesn't update.
It just doesn't
but it would
update,
still
right now,
the
it just
budget
doesn't update the
properly.
subcontract commitment. That's the only piece it doesn't do.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it still updates the budget. And
Yes,
is it,
it'll update the
does it-
budget for the subcontract value, but you have to go into the subcontract to create that change order.
Does
Yeah.
it create a new version of a budget? Is it just like do like budget number 10? Here it is. This was created by this change order.
No, like I said, we store it in buckets. So now in your job, and I shouldn't say just in buckets, but it's at the cost code and the cost class levels. I mean, that's what you're distinguishing here, is you're saying that 062 is my finished carpentry, and here's my cost codes it's affecting. So this happens, I can look at this and know that that's affecting my labor and my materials. So we post these values, the 750 and the 700, to that cost code and that cost class, which is then going to roll up into your job budget. And they're going to be, at this point, these are pending, so this would only affect your proposed budget. If these statuses said approved, and I had hit save, it would then affect my revised. Instead of proposed budget, it would affect my revised budget.
Okay.
Did that clarify that, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay. And we're sort of bouncing around, and I don't mean to make this confusing, but
Well, budgeting's complicated no matter how you shake it up, and so are change orders. And I don't
change
think,
orders can be very
and I don't
complex.
think it's just something that you can just make it like, hit a couple clicks and it's done. That's just not how it works. We need to get over that.
Well,
You've gotta understand what the hell you're doing, and where the costs are going, and where the revenue's going, and
oh yeah.
and
Yep,
it's,
you have
and
to understand
what
it.
subcontracts it's affecting, and because project
Yep.
administration is not for dummies, and the software's not gonna fix that. That's all.
Yeah, because
Okay.
Danco Builders is sending a change order to Danco Builders Northwest, who's marking it up and sending the change order to the county of Humboldt, and then the county of Humboldt sends it back approved, and Danco Builders Northwest. So, right,
You know what? And all that process would still exist if you used a hand piece of paper and
I
a
know.
filing cabinet.
I know. It's us.
Correct. It doesn't have anything to do with software.
No.
It can make it a little fast. It could.
Make it
It's
faster.
just. It can make it more speedy, but. It's
Well,
not.
there's the part I think that Dan is talking about with just the cost updating, not the revenue. I think a lot of times when he's talking about his vision about the guy standing in the middle of the field and updating his budget right there on the iPad is more of that simple 3-line or like three
That's the internal.
option.
it's an
Yeah, the
internal
internal
change order
one. I mean, yeah, this to do a owner
Or
change
owner change
order
order
is
is a
def-
different thing.
Yeah,
But,
I don't know if
you know,
we
it's
thought about
still-
that.
It's still not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be confusing. They'll have to sit down and think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, like I said, we're just speaking openly right now with you on the phone, Rosie, but I definitely see that this is easier to operate.
But,
Sure.
yeah,
It's way easier to operate,
yeah.
but the fundamentals of
Yeah, oh, yeah.
are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they could.
Do
Well,
the
you and I
same
talked
task.
about
Same
that. I mean,
stuff.
It's a different piece of paper.
well, they. They.
New pen.
I think the idea that Dan's talking about maybe is possible if Nathan's out there and he's like, oh shit, I'm gonna need $1,000 more lumber to finish this thing, and then he could do it. But I don't really know that that's not really practical. So it's like,
Well, he could at least see what his budget is by clicking one of those icons.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't even
That-
log on
Yeah,
to
no,
Spitfire.
that-
They can't even log on and find it.
'Cause
It's like,
they're-
where is it?
it's
Oh,
too
it's the three
confusing.
little ones.
Right.
Is
yeah.
it the top three
Yeah,
little
and
ones
then-
or the next one or the
Yeah.
one
and
down?
then
And I
if you
can't
just
find
Go
it.
right
project
to it.
analysis.
There it is.
That might be worth the
That's
pain,
half the
the pain of
balance.
conversion just for that.
So they can see it quickly,
No, I think.
Right.
instead of like,
Yeah.
instead of them, Kayla, can you print out my budget and send it to me?
Well, but then the other question is, can they sit down in
They
the
could print it
trailer
out,
and do
though.
this?
Yeah, they could print it out and keep it in their pocket, though. If
Yeah.
they really wanted to.
Oh, I know. I know.
Part of it's will.
Most-
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really wanna know, you're gonna find out.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I mean, yeah, I've gotten some of them are better than they were. I mean, Nathan and Rob are pretty good about looking or asking for it.
It definitely does,
I see the
the
full
logic
picture
behind the
about
software is more intuitive for sure than Spitfire. Spitfire's logic is, it's out there.
They're really smart people.
It is. Which part of it I like it because of that, because then you have to know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
You're not just, it's important to know what you're doing.
Yeah, but then it's the access to information piece is really rough.
It's tough, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, they definitely don't make it easy.
Is there more that you guys want to see? Well,
I've seen enough, personally.
I don't think. I mean, those were really the main things that
Uh-huh.
I was interested in seeing.
I mean, just in this webinar, I can see the you know how everything's kind of the same look. You open
Yeah.
up the field
Uh-huh.
and sort of how they built it. And
Uh-huh.
I've seen enough to understand that part, which is important.
I would like to kind of maybe talk a little more about the exact time piece, because that's a big piece of the whole decision. What can we do? I mean, is that something we could work on, or how do we price that out, or I guess kind of how do we make sure that's going to work for us if we go forward?
Well, Chris, are you there?
Yeah, we want that in the
Oh, other
negotiation.
Chris, I think.
She means Explorer Chris.
Oh, wrong Chris. Sorry. My Chris.
You know, I mean, it really just depends. I know we've talked about standard imports with you and what we could do without a modification. We would just need to get somebody on our programming team on the phone with you, Michelle, or whomever from your side, and then possibly someone from Exact Time.
Okay.
You know, so I think we've given you the scope as far as what our imports can do.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of how much information that you want to come across, and are we talking about, you know, I mean, anything from,
Well,
you know, the very ultimate, like, bi-directional integration
Yeah.
and everything back and forth, or are we just talking about,
Bi-
you know, an import?
No, we are talking about bi-directional. It's,
So, I mean, you know, if you had an idea and you wanted to email me exactly what you're looking for, I could probably, you know, get a quote that at least would be pretty close to accurate and scope that out for you without a conference call.
Okay.
But, you know, if you, again, that's usually how we pursue these things. It's because, you know, you seem to have an idea and you guys are very tech savvy and very smart, and I've dealt with other prospects that basically say, can you do this? But they don't
don't know
know
what you want
necessarily
them to do.
what they want to do.
Yeah.
So that's why I really suggest as well having someone from the vendor on the phone
Yeah, I
to
can.
talk about the whole thing.
I can get someone. Yeah, I'll set up a conference call maybe for next week, early next week. See what I can do. But yeah, let's move forward with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Has the accountants, they're all looked at it and they're good?
Yeah. Yeah. We could talk about that too. So.
But Brian.
I'll have to talk to Scott a little bit more. Brian was on vacation, so Scott went in his place, and he left before I was able to talk to him. So I need to just talk to him about what he saw. But I mean, he looked like, you know,
And Daphne.
so the same stuff, but you know, there are some things that are easier.
Daphne, I guess if Scott knows, Daphne would be fine. And then,
Yeah, Daphne's.
and then
had a
if
problem
Scott's
with the
good, then
import.
she should be able to.
Yeah, and then you know, Kathy.
And then what about Laura? Is there effect there?
You know, I'm trying to think what it would, and she doesn't even use SL. The only thing is time cards approval, which
Yes.
is, you know, I mean.
Jeff
it
bought
really
SL.
can't Get any
I remember
worse, yeah.
we shut off the other software and it was like, what the fuck? There's all these things going on that we were using
Yeah,
that nobody asked about.
yeah,
And so then we took it all and put it in Excel and had this whole world going on. It was a mess.
yeah.
I remember tears every day.
No, this was way before that.
Oh.
That wasn't when we converted to construction. We brought in the entities into SL and not the construction. And said, property management, good luck. It was a fucking mess. Yeah, it was a mess, but.
I mean, and then there's the Western Living, which uses it for budgets, and really none of them get in there, except for Elisa right now, because she's the only one that's been trained how to look up, you know, like, what makes up your budget, and this, I guarantee, is gonna be easier than
Yeah.
to do.
The one thing that we have this time that I don't think that we had last time is Michelle, who helps everyone.
Yeah.
Laura, accounting, construction,
Definitely.
you know, she bounces
Yeah.
around
She
everybody,
knows what
she's
we're
helped
all
with
doing.
It's good to have her on the
reports for
project team.
everybody, you know. It's like, oh, well, Western Living uses this report, and that might
Right,
pull
right.
out of, you
She's
know.
familiar with everything.
She's
Yeah.
familiar with a lot of,
Yeah,
all of the
Yeah,
shit
what
that
we're all
goes on.
doing every day.
I think ultimately the decision's coming down to Michelle and money, obviously.
Yeah, well, yeah, I still need to talk to Dan about, you know,
Cost.
well, everything, the cost is not, well, I mean, big cost, but not, you know, compared to what we spent with SL.
Yeah.
You know, it won't be much different, and,
Are we gonna be dealing with Rosie and Chris after we buy this, or are we
Yeah.
are we never gonna see you salespeople again?
You don't get rid of us that easy.
Well, you get to deal with me all the time because I'm your account manager, and Rosie basically heads the engineering team. So you can talk to Rosie, you know, frequently, but you'll get the pleasure of talking to me more often.
Well, big issue we had on SL, just to be frank about it, was the guy comes over to set us up. You know, the salespeople were great. They sold us just like you guys are. We were pumped, we were jacked, we were ready to buy it, and then they came in and it was a big letdown. And so we're wary of that. And when they brought in this guy, and then he quit the company, and we never saw him again, and he didn't communicate to the other players on the team what happened, and he had all this stuff in his mind, and I don't know, it was just kind of, and then they gave us a change order for double the amount that they quoted us to do the conversion to begin with. There was all kinds of misunderstandings. Our people thought that you guys were doing all the work, but in essence, we were doing a ton of the work. So if we get to that point, I'm just bringing it forth that those type of things are important to us when thinking about who we're going to be dealing with, conversion, that stuff.
No, absolutely. That all makes sense. You know, we pride ourselves on the partnership and the support structure, which I think Michelle and I have traded several hundred emails probably, but I can send you guys an email on the support structure. I mean, you know, you'd have me as a dedicated account manager. You have a dedicated trainer who's backed up by a PM or a remote access team. You know, you'll have direct access with Sally, who heads the professional services team. All of our trainers are very seasoned. You know, I mean, we've had, in my 5+ years here, we had one person who retired unexpectedly, and that was the only time that I've ever seen any sort of glitch in the process, whereas might be relative to what you mentioned, that someone just disappeared. But, you know, for us, everybody of the training staff has been here 10+ years. One person's been here 3 years, but she was a former client. She probably knows the software better than the other guys. You know, so someone else stepped in that was very equally capable. So.
Well, the biggest miscommunication, I think, was that Synergy, which was the provider or the servicer or whatever you call them, they didn't really understand who we were and what our needs were. They didn't do their due diligence. So when they got into it, they started to learn about who we were. And I mean, obviously you're going to have some of that too. You can't learn who we are in a 5-minute conversation. We're still learning who we are 25 years later. So, but that caused a lot of problems, because then they were, you know, this is for construction though. This is a built around job cost accounting. So they know about over under billings and allocations, equipment costs, and all the quirky shit that
which Synergy, they have like 2 or 3 people.
Right,
that know that stuff,
right.
yeah.
But this is this is their wheelhouse, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah. I mean, just to go on what Chris is saying about learning about our company, I mean, I think that was a big piece. I mean, we understand we're going to have to do the work and stuff, so I'm prepared for that. You know, like with Synergy, I'm not sure how that went, but.
Well, there'd be payroll, for example.
Yeah.
Like, well, we have prevailing wages. Oh, shit, what's that? You know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, okay, so yeah, I don't think there will be a problem with that. And
what's
then,
prevailing wage?
I mean, but we do have 60 plus companies that we do accounting for. We have 3 construction companies that bill between each other, and, you know, so we are a bit complicated in that sense. But, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, we certainly, if Michelle and Chris, et cetera, it would make you guys feel more comfortable to say, so as a customer, you know, there's going to be a series of kickoff calls before anything takes place as far as exchange of agendas and planning and things as such. And Sally passes documents back and forth, so there is an immediate written knowledge of how you guys operate. And then, of course, all that takes place on phone calls as a customer before the person visits. And then when the person visits again, we take a dynamic approach. So we spent time interviewing your employees, and I mean, like you said, Chris, it's you guys have been in business for many, many years, so it'll take us a while, but they spend time interviewing the employees to learn your processes and what you're doing currently, and then what your goals are from there. But really the whole point of that is to take a step backward, as I wanted to say, was, you know, it might make you guys more comfortable to jump on the phone with Sally preceding all of this, so that she can assure you that, I mean, as we told you, I mean, these aren't hopefully moot words, that, you know, multi-company is key with us. We use our own software amongst 9 worldwide companies who have their own softwares. And I know you guys have a ton of companies, but Sally can attest to the implementations that she's done, and, you know, you can hear experiences from her as opposed to from me. So happy to set that up if that's something you'd like to do.
We just want you to build your proposal correctly and us to know what it's going to cost and not have a surprise later. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's certainly, I appreciate that. I mean, we've been doing this forever. We have an implementation spreadsheet that I would share with you, and we would recommend, you know, X amount of hours. But like you said, X amount of hours, to, you know, for Doc Pro could be different for multi-companies. They could be for somebody with 3 users. So we'll take all that into consideration, needless to say. I appreciate that.
Do we get to use, I mean, since it's a SQL, then won't that make it a lot easier?
Mm-hmm.
We don't lose that database, right? We have it.
Well, we paid for the SQL license through Synergy, so we do have that. I imagine there's going to be some sort of support, but I mean, you guys provide, when we purchase, you provide the SQL license and everything with the install, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't,
Sorry.
you cut out on me. I think I had to mute because my dog was barking, so
Oh,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
If you hear that, I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. You guys, with the whole, I can't remember off the top of my head or if it said, but for the SQL Server license, I mean, we currently pay for it through our current software, but you guys provide the license if that happened to go away, right? I mean, I think we
Let's
keep
see.
the license.
Well,
no
what
matter
I'm
what.
saying is they don't have to move information from one database to the other. They just have to point to it.
Oh, no, it's not going to be
Oh,
that
no.
easy.
It has
They'll
to be-
have different structures.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Okay, whatever.
But it will be as
In my
simple
simple mind,
as
that's
a
how it
data
works.
dump. So we could, you know, we dump everything into Excel, change it to be what we want, and then you just move the columns around and upload it into here. I mean, and I already know Kathy is going to be willing to work day and night on that kind of stuff, and Daphne not,
Yeah,
but
she
Cindy
is.
probably. And
Make sure you make that part of the
I mean,
deal.
thinking too about the team we had back then when we started SL, we had a lot of new people. I mean, that's when I first started working. Cindy was brand new. Brenda was brand new. Kathy was really the only seasoned person. So I think we got a different, yeah, we do have quite a different team that really knows more about what they do now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways,
Well, it's exciting, not really.
But,
That just didn't seem enthusiastic on my part, just saying.
Well, I've been through it twice, so I know what
It's painful.
what it's painful. You can't hide that when you've been through it twice. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're doing a conversion, it's freaking painful.
No matter how well it
Exactly,
goes,
that's-
it's gonna be painful.
It is painful.
You know,
And that's why I tell everybody, I've been through those conversions in real life, and you wish you could make it just like a magic wand and it was easy, but it's not.
Good to hear you say that, Rosie.
I'm not gonna tell you, well, I could give you the sales pitch, oh no, it's easy.
Yeah, well,
But
exactly.
we
You know
know
you're
it's
lying.
not.
Yeah, then we
Yeah, exactly, and I just don't, I would rather tell you the truth, So.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for the demo.
Yeah.
I'm done. I got enough information for.
Well, thanks, everybody, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
thank you both.
Yeah, appreciate you guys joining us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be-
Okay,
Have a
thanks.
good day and weekend.
You too.
Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.